Well, we're back with Paul Taylor this week here on Leading Our Way. We're up to part 3. What if I told you that what you eat could be one of the biggest factors influencing your mental health? Well, Paul Taylor breaks down the critical link between nutrition, mental resilience, and physical fitness, and how small changes in your diet can have massive effects on your mood, energy, and long-term brain health. I am evidence of that. I'm the clearest I've ever been since I got rid of sugar and really looked at the foods I put into my body. Back to an 80-20 rule. Side note, contradictions like me, I have a little bit of sugar here and there. But with masters in human nutrition and years of research in exercise science, Paul is an expert in how food impacts cognitive function and emotional well-being. Today we're talking about the hidden dangers of processed foods, ultra-processed foods, the role of gut health in mental fitness, and why movement and exercise are just as crucial as mindset when it comes to building resilience. If you want to optimize your performance, not just physically but mentally, this episode is definitely for you. As he mentions in the episode, it's not working optimally. Actually, it's really just having a basic human function to prevent a lot. I forget the number. Did he say 28 chronic diseases? Anyway, here's Paul. Let's get right into it. It's horrible.
This stuff is it's tempting, right?
It's
but
addictive.
it's a bigger thing that we associate shit food with reward.
Yeah.
And particularly setting up that loop in kids' brains. You know, if you're good, I'll buy you an ice cream or blah, blah, blah. And it's setting up the wrong loop. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole.
It is, and you know, we're all guilty, and we do all dip, and I'm guilty of that. I've reversed a lot of pain. I had the borderline of ankylosing spondylitis, which you probably know.
Inflammatory disorder,
yeah. And I had that we got a bed like 9. We moved to Australia. With my first paycheck, we bought a beautiful bed, and the first 2 nights it was painful. And I said, "Oh, you know, it'll just be, it'll be fine. It's just because it's a new bed." And I, didn't go away. And for 9 years, when I lived on the Bayside, I moved over to Torquay area, and the doctor found the right test. I don't know why it didn't come up before, but saw the back specialist, borderline ankylosing spondylitis. You don't quite qualify for the cortisone treatment. And I went, okay, so what do I do? You know, take anti-inflammatories. So I did that a little bit, not for long. But I knew in the back of my mind, this is not right. So I stopped. So that's when I started part of my journey. I mean, there's more deeper journey and I won't bore you with that right now. Everyone else seems to know it anyway. But I stopped taking it and started to look at how I could reverse it. I reversed it. I reversed all pain. I started obviously eating well. I got rid of sugar.
Which is key.
I started doing cold exposure which I know you're a big fan of, and I know we'll probably touch on that too. I can't not get up in the morning and not have a cold shower or jump into my cold plunge. And I started to reverse it. However, the summer holidays just came, and I maintained not having pain for a long time, and I know I can fix it. It's back now, however, because the summer holidays, I was out of my routine, I lose it, and that's where I dip, because I am human. I dip, the kids are here, and I don't. But I know you turn around and say, you've got to be disciplined. And I know I do. I've got to get up maybe 10 minutes earlier and get on with it if I know that I reap the benefits from it. So you're absolutely right. All this inflammation is everywhere. And I see it in children every single day. And I will be careful here what I say. However, do you think... I mean, Jamie Oliver was ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He was massively ahead of his time. Do you think... Because I see these packaged foods in these children, I think we even have to go deeper. The root cause for me, right, of my observations, my reading, listening to people like yourself, if I go to the top of the chain, take devices away from it for a second, because there's obviously a room for conversation there too, and everything else, home life, trauma, whatever. But the root cause for, I think, the brain health, that where we're going downhill, is 2 things: food and sleep. Would you agree? Or have I gone completely wrong?
I would throw a third in there.
Exercise, sorry. We've said
lack of physical activity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that goes without saying.
I'll give you one of my favorite quotes from any research paper from Professor Frank Booth. The human genome has not changed in over 45,000 years.
Yeah.
The current human genome requires and expects us to be highly physically active for normal functioning.
Yeah.
Note the way he didn't say optimal function, he said normal functioning. We now know so much about physical activity. In fact, there's been a research paper, a pretty fundamental research paper by Sultan and Peterson, 2 legendary exercise physiologists, that basically showed that exercise can prevent and or treat 26 of the most common chronic diseases that we suffer from.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that triumvirate, though, that often comes together where you're not moving much, you're eating a crap diet, and you're not sleeping well, because the physical activity or lack of it and the food will interfere with sleep.
Yeah.
And then what happens if you've had bad sleep, the next day, your stress hormones are higher the entire next day, right? And ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is higher the entire next day. And when you have stress hormone, cortisol, and hunger hormone, it makes you crave sugary, fatty, and salty foods, which are available everywhere. It's these ultra-processed foods. So we tend to have that. Then what we also know the next day after a bad night's sleep, leptin is lower. Now, leptin has a powerful action on the brain on two things. Number one is cessation of eating. I'm full, I don't need to eat anymore. But secondly, and very importantly, voluntary physical activity. So when they take mice or rats and they block the leptin gene, just one gene, they block it, those mice and rats stop moving and overeat and become obese and diabetic within a month, right? Yeah. So then when your leptin is low, you're much more likely to sit on your arse all day. You're much less likely to exercise, right? Then you're less able to handle the stresses of the day's events, because exercise is the best stress buster there is. And remember, your cortisol is higher as well. So that has you on edge. So you're more likely to get stressed. And then you're more likely to come home because you haven't exercised and soothe your stress or anxiety with either shit food or alcohol, which both interfere with your sleep that night. And then it's Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, it's those three things together, because they all interact with each other, and I don't think we can separate them out.
You know, you're completely great. I think I always leave the exercise off because I just do it and I don't think of it, and I just, because I play basketball and I'm out there doing my thing, and I always. And it is so important, absolutely. And I never include it. I did it with you last time. I never included it then, and you reiterated the same point. And I think I do it the other way because of, I feel like sleep is obviously, we can manipulate food, but the human body's not been able to, and society's not been able to manipulate sleep, even though, Netflix has tried to, because I think the founder wanted to manipulate sleep. He said, I want people to be awake all night. That was his goal when he opened Netflix, apparently. I don't know if that's true, but that's right.
That and social media, they're doing a reasonable job, right? Because we know that our kids sleep about an hour less than they did 30 years ago. And that creates metabolic mayhem.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, rather than putting the kids on meds, why don't we get the Department of Education, let's start at the root, because obviously that's where the root is, the children. Let's change society going forward. Why don't we do gene tests on everybody? Like, get a roadmap of our gene expression. Why can't we do that?
So I'll tell you the reason why we don't do that. Number one, super expensive to do on a population level. And number two, there is still a lot of work to be done in terms of our understanding of physiogenomics, nutrigenomics, right? So how particular genes influence risk of disease. Like, so they've been trying to get genes for diabetes for 15 years. And what is very clear is it's a completely multifaceted disease, and there are different strains, if you like, of it as well. And again, we haven't identified very clear candidate genes for obesity. We know there's a number of ones that contribute to it, but it is complicated. And then it's like, well, the other thing is, in order to do that, we need to move into the era of personalized medicine. And we are nowhere near that yet. So I think there's a number of barriers for that. I think cheaper, more effective, and less painful is around giving out consistent advice around what we should be, and encouraging the built environment to be set up for that, right? So what I mean by that, you take schools, giving options for kids to be standing up for at least part of the class rather than sitting down. increasing the amount of physical activity. You look at Finland, the best education system in the world.
Yeah.
They have less teaching time and more physical activity time, significantly more, because they understand that kids need to move, right? Yeah. Having at the start of the class, maybe 30 seconds where they run around like crazy, particularly little kids, and then sitting down and starting the class with 1 to 2 minutes of slow controlled breathing, so that they understand or calm down their physiology, and that the kids understand how to do that, right? Giving them options to stand up if they want to, so that they're not fidgety. So just a little aside on this. In America particularly, most diagnoses for mental health and ADHD, start with the teacher. And if you are born in the first half of the year, you're way more likely to get a diagnosis of ADHD, right? Because the teacher goes, little Johnny is disruptive in class. Why is he disruptive in class? Not because he's got friggin' ADHD, because he's young for the year and he's not mature yet and his brain hasn't matured. Like, it is crazy how much more likely you are to be diagnosed with ADHD if you're in the start of the year.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just like if you're born if you're born late in the year, that is, so if you're young in the year. And conversely, we know if you're older in the year, you're much more likely to be a professional sports person, right?
Yeah.
Let's follow that through, because they're bigger, they're more developed, they stand out then earlier, then they get more coaching, right? And so they develop better, and because of the coaching, which comes from the fact that they were just big initially and more physically developed, right? So, when we look under the hood, there's so much stuff that we could just be making those little changes. And the other thing is just having good food in schools, like quality food. Now, the problem is here, again, it's a money thing, because, and it's the same in a friggin' hospital, which I was in recently, ultra processed food is cheap, right? Carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, are cheap and highly profitable. Protein and good quality fats are expensive, right? So in the schools, it tends to be just like it is in hospitals, highly processed, cheap, carbohydrate-based stuff with low quality fats and very little protein, right? And that's just a disaster. So I think, for me, the money would be better spent fixing the built environment, right? Not having tuck shops. So I did a workshop with a school, and this was a specialist school, and I did it with the teachers, and afterwards they changed everything. Now, fortunately, they were in charge of the tuck shop, and they took chips and crap food out of the tuck shop. The kids were not happy, but what they started doing is growing their own veggies, right? And more of it, and got the kids involved in it, and then took those veggies into the tuck shops, and the kids' diets changed. The kids got really on board with all of it, and they had a massive impact. Now, that was one principle, and a bunch of teachers going, we're going to do something about this. Now, fortunately, they controlled their tuck shop. You go into any tuck shop in a school, which are normally separate businesses. You look at what's sold in there. I'm telling you now, it's ultra processed shit is the stuff that's sold. And that's what the kids are eating. And often the parents don't know what they're eating as well. So I think we have to fix the food that is going in, because that has a huge impact on someone's brain function, the risk of ADHD, depression, anxiety. We got to fix the food. We got to fix the movement, and we got to teach our kids that they can control their physiology / anxiety with breath work.
Yes.
Right? I think that's what we need to do, and give the kids the environment where they're exercising more, right? And make it fun for them, so that actually their bodies and brains start to function really well. Then you'll see a whole host of behavioral issues go out the window, as well as physical and mental health issues.
Couldn't agree more. And you're right with the tuck shots. I go to schools every day and see the kids walking away with ice cream, snakes hanging from their mouths, and I can just see sugar going into it. And the kids the other day were selling it out of a little lunchbox. They were trying to make a little business out of it by selling shit. But also the foods that are going into the body before school. as well.
Absolutely.
Cereals, what's the issue with, I did a MTHFR test on my son.
Yes.
And he has he has the gene of MTHFR. He was lip-tied, tongue-tied as a child. We believe that is part of the gene. I don't know if I'm correct on that particular part. He can't methylate folic acid, I believe.
Methylase, absolutely. So if he's having regular folic acid, and particularly a lot of the foods are fortified with folic acid, and that's good if you have the normal gene on MTHFR, but if you have the variant, the SNP, where you don't you don't methylate folic acid, it is actually dysfunctional, right, and can cause you all sorts of issues. That's one of the rare genes where we see one gene having a significant impact on things.
Because isn't it the figure of something like 44% of the world population will have that particular gene type?
I look, I've heard that term banded around. I haven't actually seen the research on that, so I would always say, like, I want to see the research paper on that, and what was the population size, how much can we expand that? Because if it was a small study done in one particular country that they're trying to, that was, say, either white or Asian or black, and they're trying to then expand that to entire populations, there's where there's an issue. So it may well be, I just haven't seen the research around it.
So with that particular gene then, if a child can't methylate folic acid but is having cereal in the morning, is that the prevention? Because is that where you eat the food, homocysteine levels kind of rise, and it can be converted into methionine? Is that the natural process?
So and it's then going to impact on their ability to methylate genes, to switch genes on and off, right?
Well, Paul, it's an eye-opening deep dive into nutrition and mental fitness, but we're not done yet. We've got part 4, because here we're going to talk about cold water exposure, one of my favorites, really another part that really changed my life as well. Sleep, we're going to look at, and the role of discipline in building a truly resilient life. Paul's insights, they're going to challenge you in the way that you think about stress and recovery and daily habits. And I guarantee you'll come away with practical strategies to implement right away. I'm excited for the final part. See you in part 4 with Paul Taylor and myself here on Leading Our Own Way, the YouTube series. Enjoy. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.